The Obama administration made its most detailed case yet for the targeted killing of U.S. citizens and foreign nationals overseas. U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder argued on Monday that the killings, conducted without judicial review, are constitutional. Holder defended the administration's controversial policy on national security grounds at a speech at Northwestern University Law School. But some legal experts question Holder's justification for the attacks and say the courts must step in to protect the right to due process. FSRN's Alice Olstein has more.
The Fifth Amendment to the Constitution says the government may not deprive a person of his or her life without due process of law. But Attorney General Eric Holder told law students at Northwestern University on Monday that there are exceptions.
An operation using lethal force in a foreign country targeted against a U.S. citizen who is a senior operational leader of al-Qaeda or associated forces and who is actively engaged in planning to kill Americans would be lawful at least in the following circumstances. First, the U.S. government has determined after a thorough and careful review that the individual poses an imminent threat of violent attack against the United States. Second, capture is not feasible. And third, the operation would be conducted in a manner consistent with applicable law of war principles.
For the past several years, the U.S. military has carried out lethal drone strikes in Pakistan, Yemen, and other countries, but has refused to disclose the criteria for the so-called kill list. Some legal experts, including the UN Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial Killings, say ordering any strikes outside an official combat zone violates international law. But Holder says the transnational structure of al-Qaeda legitimizes the attacks.
The Constitution empowers the president to protect the nation from any imminent threat of violent attack. And international law recognizes the inherent right of national self-defense. None of this is changed by the fact that we are not in a conventional war.
Holder also argued there is no need to have the courts consider the evidence against the targeted individual or the legality of the killing.
Due process and judicial process are not one and the same, particularly when it comes to national security. The Constitution guarantees due process. It does not guarantee judicial process.
According to the Attorney General, informing appropriate members of Congress about counterterrorism operations is sufficient oversight. But Nate Wessler, an attorney with the American Civil Liberties Union, disagrees.
There are serious issues about due process for U.S. citizens when the government orders them to be targeted and killed, and it's absolutely vital that courts have an opportunity to weigh in on whether those due process rights have been violated or not.
Wessler says the Attorney General's explanation of what constitutes an immediate threat is so vague that even mere suspicions or accusations could lead to someone being labeled an enemy combatant.
Any United States citizen who's traveling outside the United States and is suspected of terrorism without ever being hailed into court or prosecuted or indicted now needs to fear a missile being directed at them.
Since the lethal drone strikes last year on U.S. cleric Anwar al-Awlaki and his teenage son in Yemen, arguments about when and how U.S. citizens can be targeted are no longer theoretical. The American Civil Liberties Union and other groups are currently suing the U.S. government for refusing to release the memo that ordered these attacks and justified their necessity.
Until the government reveals the reasons that it thought it had to use lethal force against Anwar al-Awlaki, the public can't evaluate the legality of the action. And as to Abdulrahman al-Awlaki, a 16-year-old United States citizen killed by a drone strike in Yemen while he was eating outside with family members, the government has been absolutely silent.
The Justice Department must submit their defense brief in the next few weeks, and a federal judge will decide the ACLU's case this summer. Alice Olstein, FSRN, Washington.